Hey guys! Witchy and I were going to talk more about toys today, in particular about making your own toys. Anyway, we talked a little bit about wood in the last video, and you asked about how to tell if wood is treated. Anytime you go to a hardware store and you buy wood, on the very end of it you're going to have a tag like this. And treated wood will always say treated. Treated wood has anything from arsenic, I think actually arsenic is illegal now, but various chemicals you obviously don't want to put in your mouth. Treated wood is oftentimes sort of green in color, sometimes it's even still damp, and but it's always labeled. It's a little more expensive. If you want to use outdoor wood, we talked a little bit about using outdoor wood for perches or fun toys like that. It's best if you can peel the bark off. Otherwise, if you can find something with smooth bark, you can always dunk it in bleach, or you can actually put it in the oven. That works really well. Just bake it at 375 or 400 degrees for a little while. It'll sometimes caramelize the sugars, and it'll definitely kill any little microbial stuff living in there. You can always get wood products at the store. These ones here are basically dyed with food dye. And they're marketed specifically for parrot use. They're generally pretty safe. It's just annoying when they get wet, they bleed all over everything. And a lot of things are made from birchwood because it has no taste and it's generally fairly healthy for birds. So those are all safe products to make toys with. When it comes down to string, I use a lot of the jute twine kind of stuff or hemp twine, and that's usually pretty safe. But then our favorite, because it's so soft, is the cotton twine that's marketed for food use, for tying up pot roasts and stuff like that. You make some real soft toys with that. Metals. We talked about not using metals that have a coating on them, not using metals that are plated in any way. Usually very shiny metals are plated, but the best way to tell is if you bend it and little flakes of shiny stuff come off, you're definitely dealing with a plated metal. I gotta tell you, I use hanger metal at home. The kind of unpainted, non-enameled, non-coated hangers, they're fairly dull in color when you initially get them, and you can bend them into all kinds of different shapes. Just be sure when you're bending them, by the time you're done, you've sort of moved all the ends out of place so they're not poking out and jutting out. These are great for stringing beads on, for tying bits of rope to, for all kinds of different things. You can use this wire. If it ever starts to get rusty, I just take it out of the cage and use a little Brillo pad on it or a little steel wool to get rid of the rust, wash it real well, and give it back. These are pretty innocuous, pretty harmless. If anything is marketed specifically for parrot use, you can be pretty sure it's safe. These shiny little chains here are available through parrot stores, and you can use those. This is an example of a fun toy that I made for Widget. You've got the butcher's twine there. You have these little plastic beads, which are totally safe. Like I said in earlier videos, birds are smart enough not to eat the plastic that you give them. It's the plastic that can shatter and break and create shards that can hurt them. That's what you want to avoid. But for example, this was an old film canister, and I ran the chain through it. And I tied the butcher's twine and the beads to the bottom, and actually it was originally filled with other beads, so it rattled. You'll see that she chewed the top off and pulled the beads out. She did not swallow that plastic. She's smart enough not to do that. These are those nice little expensive connectors you can get through the parrot stores, but there are a lot of alternatives to these. And one of my favorites is this right here. And of course my all-time favorite are the little links like these, little plastic links. Way cheaper. You can buy them at educational stores. I think these are for elementary schoolers to count with or something like that. To buy it at a teacher supply store. And I got them by the bucket load, and they don't damage the enamel on Widget's cage, which is great. Then another absolute no-no when it comes to connectors, keychains. This keychain looks really fun, and the whistle is really great for her to play with. But what you don't want is you don't want this metal piece right here. If you look at that, they can actually pry that apart with their beak, just the way we were supposed to pry it apart with our finger to get a key onto that keychain. I knew an eclectus parrot once who pried it apart with his beak and then got it stuck and was hanging there by his lower mandible for some time before he was found. Fortunately, he recovered, he's fine, but we don't want to risk that. So I always avoid keychains. I can buy things that come on keychains, take them apart, and put them on something else, because a lot of times keychain baubles can be a lot of fun to play with. Here are your classic pony beads. They're great for making toys out of. They're safe. I've never seen a parrot swallow one or even swallow the pieces of one if they've managed to break it. They're really smart. We don't give them enough credit for being smart. Widget has actually gotten out and found my pin cushion and pulled every single pin out of my pin cushion without hurting herself. In fact, she also would pull them out, hold them in one hand, and bite the little plastic heads until they cracked and fell off, and then she'd discard the pins. It was really, really funny, albeit very annoying as she discarded them in my clean laundry. Okay, as far as fabric goes, this is just classic t-shirt fabric. I use a lot of t-shirt fabric. Whenever I make fabric toys for birds, I always use used fabric from clothing I've already worn. I've washed out any of the dyes. I've washed out anything that could possibly hurt the bird. I mean, this thing's been washed to the hilt. And so denim is a great fabric. In fact, when I was sewing, whenever I'm sewing, she's always yelling and yelling because she wants to touch and hold whatever is in my hand. And so I'll try and cut things off that I don't want and give them to her. And this ended up being the most ridiculously fun toy ever. All it was the button off of a pair of jeans. She loves it. She tries to pull the button off of the denim, and so I just hang it in her cage and leave it there. And you can see how she's shredded it to bits. Now this denim is totally safe. It's a weave, and so there's no loops of fabric for her to get her toes caught in. It's also been washed more than 1,000 times, so it probably doesn't have any dyes or anything harmful in it that would hurt her. The t-shirt fabric, I showed you earlier what I call the mop, the bird mop. I just cut a bunch of strips of t-shirt fabric, I slice them, I tie them at the top, and it makes a preening toy. And she can snuggle with that and preen it, and she'll chew it to shreds, and they're so cheap and easy to make. I give her tons of those. Here's an example of something that I made with the pony beads and the wire. It actually used to have a bell in the middle. She's done a good job of destroying this one. But I just, this was just hanger wire, and that's something you can easily do. This is another one, based on hanger wire. I got the bell at a parrot store. You've got more of that butcher's twine that's soft for her, and totally safe. A lot of fun. Here's another one she's enjoyed. She actually removed the bell from this one as well. I told you she really likes to eat bells. It's her favorite thing. I discovered she liked zippers. Seems really strange, but these plastic zippers, she will bite the little pieces off of them, and she will not swallow them. The first time she bit one of the pieces off, I freaked out and I held her upside down and I shook her little mouth until she dropped it. She's never swallowed one. Unfortunately, you got to think about the byproduct of letting them play with certain types of toys. By letting her play with these, she now can, in 10 seconds flat, eat the teeth off of your zippers. So if she's sitting on your shoulder and you're wearing a fleece and you forget about it, you hear this pop, 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 and there's 4 pieces of your zipper missing and your fleece is gone. So think about the implications of letting them play with things. She's allowed to play with plain pieces of paper, but not obviously with books or magazines, because that teaches her that it's okay to chew on books and magazines. Okay, so, oh yes, as far as fabric goes, here's your absolute no-no. You don't want to use terry cloth. And you'll see on an old piece of terry cloth how it starts to form loops. And these loops, they can get their leg in, and if they so much as twist it a couple times, they can cut off the circulation and lose their feet or their toes. And you don't want that. I've seen that happen before. And again, trust them around plastic. This is a fun toy that you can make yourself. You just get a plain plastic thing. Sometimes I've used old plastic baby food canisters. You can make your own rattle by just opening this up, filling it with safe pony beads, closing it, take a plastic drill a hole through it, and hang it on twine or one of those metal hooks that I showed you. Something maybe from the parrot store, or maybe even one of those plastic rings from a children's toy store. That's a real simple toy to make. Gives them hours of enrichment. She really enjoys rattles. Yeah. And that's sort of all I have to say today, but we'll see you again soon. Bye!